Okay, welcome back to another lab. Today's lab will not be a mini lab, but we're extending on lab 1 in our storage group series. Some of the steps will be the same as in our mini lab, which is good because repetition is a great way to learn and it makes perfect and it leads to better understanding. But here, today's lab could be a little confusing. So I set up a little MS Paint diagram here. I know it does not look very professional, but it's going to get the job done, I believe. This is going to explain the goal of the lab and the scenario. We're going to use a VM, but a better scenario here, a real life scenario, would be an on-prem server. So you want to take this on-prem server and replicate the information on it to the cloud. So we're going to use a thing called a file sync service. So we're going to use a VM to represent our on-prem machine. And we're going to create a folder on there called on the E drive called folder 1. And what we're going to do is there's going to be files in here and other folders. We're going to replicate this information into a file share in our storage group. If you recall from lab 1, we created a storage group and a file share. This time, we're going to create and have these sync in real time. So when we initially set up, all the files here are going to automatically go to the file share up in the cloud. Then as we add files here, they will automatically sync up as well. So it's a great way to move data from on-prem to the cloud. And a real life scenario might be maybe, I think this VM moved to the cloud, and for some reason you can't use a feature called Azure Disaster Recovery, which replicates the whole VM. So what you could do is here's your Azure VM. You built, didn't replicate it, and then you want to take this information at changeover time and just copy the information to it. But we're not doing that in this lab. We're concentrating on this piece only. So hope that's clear. And with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so we got the big picture out of the way. So what are we going to actually do or learn in this lab? Oh, it's not a mini lab. In this lab, we will set up the following items. In this lab, you're going to learn the basic steps for extending the storage capacity of a Windows server by using Azure File Sync. Like I noted as I noted already, although this lab features Windows Server as an Azure virtual machine, you would typically do this process from your on-premise servers or for your on-premise servers. So what will we learn to do in this lab? Well, we're going to deploy the storage sync service, prepare a Windows server to use with Azure File Sync, install the Azure File Sync agent, register a Windows server with the storage sync service, create a sync group and a cloud endpoint, and create a server endpoint. Now, obviously, some of these terms might be new to you. No worries. We'll learn about those as we go around in the lab. All right, let's get started. Okay, I'm in a resource group. I'm going to use my same resource. I'm going to use the resource group storage-rg. And notice I already have a storage sync service. Just ignore that for this lab. I'm going to create one called speed sync file sync 2 for this lab in particular. So just ignore that for now. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a storage group. So we'll say add storage group. And let's give it a name of speed storage group. And we'll put in East US. And we talked about all this stuff before. We're going to go with the standard group. And storage V2. And we'll go with LRS. Well, let's go with, let's be redundant, and we'll go with RAGRS. All right, then nothing else that we need to worry about. So we're going to hit review and create. All right, you can see I have my storage group created. And just like in the previous lab, we're going to create a file share. And we'll call it speed file share. And again, we'll use 1 gigabyte for our quota, which should be plenty. Next, we want to create, if you look at what we've gotten done so far, we've created the storage group and the file share. What we want to do now is create this VM, which is going to represent an on-prem server in our real-life fake scenario. So let's go ahead to PowerShell here. And let's go ahead and... I don't think I've... it might not have my credentials. Let's see if it has kept my credentials from the last lab. So storage group, correct. And here's going to be the name of our VM. This is pretty much like our last lab, I believe. Nothing as much has changed here. I'll give you a few seconds. You can always pause the video if you need to write this down or copy it. But let's go ahead and run this line. Now, it might fail, because I can't remember if this variable is still in memory, but we'll see. If we get the if we get the little graph going, oh, looks like we're okay. All right. While the VM is being built, let's use this time to talk about different redundancy options for a storage account. Remember, there's 4 types, and we got local redundant. This is the simplest, and data is copied synchronously 3 times within the primary region. Then you got the next one above, zone redundant. Redundancy for scenarios requiring high availability. Data is copied across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region. So this basically is saying, within the region, they have different data centers. So it's copied to different data centers within that region. Then you have the next one, where we copy to another region. So it might be East, US2, and Central. So cross-regional redundancy to protect against regional outages. Data is copied 3 times in the primary region and then copied asynchronously, meaning 1 at a time, to the secondary region. For read access to data in the secondary region, enable read access to your redundant storage. Then you have geo-zone redundant storage, which is in preview. Redundancy for scenarios requiring both high availability and maximum durability. Data is copied synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region. So much like ZRS. Then copied to the secondary region. For read access in the secondary region, enable read access to your redundant storage. So pretty good there. All right, looks like our VM got created. Outstanding. A couple things we want to do to our VM this time. They're nice review. So let's go back to our storage group. Might have to hit refresh here. We're going to go to our VM. And right now, let's see what the size is. 2 CPUs, 7 gigs. That's pretty good. Let's see what other sizes we have. 2 CPUs, 7. I think we'll stick with that. That should be okay. But one thing we do want to do though is add a disk. Okay, so we want to add a data disk. And click here, say create disk. Disk name, we'll call it data. And location, good. Change the size. We don't really need that big of a disk. We'll go with 64. Say okay. And source types, if you're interested, you can do a snapshot, storage blob, or none. So doing a brand new disk. So we'll say create. I'm pretty sure we had a lab with the VMs adding a disk. So if we don't, well, here you go. This is what you call a mini lab. So we're going to add the disk here in the VM, but then we have to add it to the server. So we'll do that next as soon as it gets done validating here. Okay, so we'll click on save. Updating virtual machines disks, pretty good there. And it's still going, so we'll pause. Okay, so now let's go back. We need to connect to our VM and go to and tell it to add that disk that we just added at the VM level. So we'll say connect. We'll download our RDP file. Of course, I've been using the same name for several labs here, so I'll replace it. Come down here and double click on it. See how fast this is. You know, while we had this downtime here, you know, if there's a lab that someone would like to see, and you're watching this lab, feel free to put in the comments section. I kind of need more comments, and of course a like would be nice. But I'm doing this for, now okay, sometimes I've been asked, well I shouldn't say I've been asked several times, I've been asked twice now, do I have any certifications in Azure? And I'm doing this for lots of reasons. One, it's kind of fun. Two, I want to see just how far the channel can get. It'd be pretty cool if it gets to be, you know, like pretty mainstream. And I do learn from these videos, but I do have the Azure Administrator certification as well as Azure Architect. And I'm currently working on the Azure Security. And they're you know, not everyone's into certifications, but that kind of something. It's a good real life prospect, a good measurement, benchmarking of where you're at in progress. But I'm gonna pause. Nope, there we go. Just about to pause the video, but this is interesting. You get these sometimes when you first boot up the VM. I've seen it more and more often. And here comes Server Manager. Okay, we're back. And my previous job, I dealt with servers a lot, but I don't do that very much for the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm thankful. That nothing wrong with server administration, but I like Azure, so been doing more of that in my real job. And so I might stumble here a little bit. All I want to do is add that disk. So I think if I right click here, right click here, down here I bet you. Disks. Hopefully we see a new disk. This must be it. Right click. New volume. Nothing like a wizard. That looks good. Next. That seems what we want. 64 gig, sure. We don't need to partition it. Drive letter F. Can we use E? Huh, wonder where E is. Alright, we'll use F. And there it goes. Now I'm wondering if E's gone because I used E and maybe it's still cached somewhere in the Azure memory. I mean, I did this lab once before. I usually do the labs once before I start videoing because hopefully it's smoother. And it's funny, sometimes the second time I go through it, you know, doing it for the video, it goes worse. It's really strange. But, all right, so we're completed. Close. And now we should have, I believe, come on, folder. There we go. It's a little slow. And should have an F drive. And we do. I'm going to make a folder up here. Just call it File Sync. How about we call it data? Pretty good there. The other thing you have to do to prepare for the File Sync soft agent to come on here is go to servers. No. I need to get back to, I want to get back to here. So there we go, local. And here, and turn that off. If you want, you can turn it back on after we install the agent, but that has to be off for the agent to work. Why? I don't know, but that's just what the instructions say on the Microsoft site. So I'm not one to argue. The next thing we need to do is install the AZ PowerShell modules. So I'll click here, PowerShell, wait on our VM, best match is 0. There we go. Right click, run as administrator, bring this window down. And we're going to say install module. Try and let the tab complete for me. There we go. Name. Again, waiting for tab complete. And it is just a case doesn't matter there. We'll get prompted a few times. We'll just say yes. If you noticed, we're at 17 minutes in the video, and I used to have to stop at 15, but due to my recent increase in views, I can now create longer videos. So, yay for that. I'm not going to pause here because I think it might be somewhat informational to watch this in case you can't follow along right now. Our next step after this will be to deploy the storage sync agent, and that's what allows us to have the real live synchronization going on. All right, this is getting pretty boring, so I'm going to pause the video. Last time I said pause, it stopped, so no. Okay, it all stopped, and took on this machine took what, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But now what we want to do now is install the storage sync. That's done in Azure, so we'll come here, and I'm going to disconnect. And we're going to go back to our storage group, and we're going to create this guy here. Remember, just ignore this for now, for you guys. So we're going to say add, and it's not going to be in our quick window here. So we'll go ahead and type in storage sync. Maybe did I spell storage wrong? Let's try it again. Storage sync service. there. Well, notice I typed this in, and it's not what I wanted to type. But it did get me where I wanted to get to. We want the Azure File Sync, not Storage Sync Service. So here's a nice little diagram. What it's saying here, you got your stuff on-prem here, right? And you want to take your servers, put them in a Azure File Share, and maybe notice that you could, if you wanted to, you could back it up to, you could also back up this file share now. So it's another way to back up these servers by replicating to the cloud. So you got ROM redundancy, and then back it up to a vault. Now you're got your on-prem stuff pretty secure. So lots of different ways to use this service. So we'll say create. Ask us for a name, and we'll just call it Azure. So we'll call it Azure File Sync Speed. How about that? And we want an East US 2. That's really all there is to say. So say review and create. Okay, our next step in our little journey here is to download the Azure File Sync agent. And that goes on, in our scenario, it goes on our VM, which in our scenario, in our real life scenario that we're trying to portray, is an on-prem machine. So I'm going to log back in to the VM. And download the Azure File Sync agent. And I'm going to go here, start a browser. Oh, I hate slow machines. Okay, finally. Took it about a good minute. So I'm going to go to a search site that I like, DuckDuckGo. We don't track you. That's their slogan. And I'm going to say Azure File Sync Agents. Choose that one. And download. And we got 2016 installed, so we'll choose this one. And we'll do a save as. And we'll say OK. Then we'll say run. Next. I accept. Sure, why not? Again, I'll accept the defaults. All right. I'll say use Microsoft Update. Who knows how long this will be around. That's fine too. All right, we finally got to the finish. I just minimize the windows. We see this here, and it's up to date, which is excellent. And we're going to configure it now. Our choices here are public cloud or government. I think we're okay with the default there. We'll sign in, and I think it'll prompt us for our credentials into Azure. Okay, after a successful login, we're presented with this screen, and this is nice here. Some of their agent requires you to type all this in, but look at this. There it is. And found my description. And we want storage RG. And we're doing this one. Let's say register. Successful. We'll copy this just in case we need it. Oops, testing. Now let's look at the report. I never see this report, but let's click on it. All right. Oh, it looks pretty good. Success. That's what we like to see. Close. Okay. Now it's time to go back to Azure. So I'm going to disconnect. And I'm back to Azure. Close that. And here we are. We'll say we'll go to the resource. And what we want to do is add a sync group. Let's see if the sync group name, let's use speed sync group. And storage, select storage accounts. We'll use that one. And DataBox is a service that you can also use that Microsoft offers to bring stuff from on-prem to the cloud. And speed file share. And we'll say create. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add a server endpoint. So I'll click on our group and click add server endpoint. And our registered server should be simple. We only have one. And the path, what should we call it? Oh boy, I forget. So we'll have to go back and look. Whoops. I'm thinking we called it data on the F drive, but let's see. Yeah, F data. We'll cover this stuff later on. Say create. Should get this little part where it says provisioning. And let's see if we could click here and get any details. We see enabling sync. That's all we get. Okay, we see we got pending. So right now we have nothing in our share or nothing on the VM. So there's nothing in our share yet. So what we want to do is populate here, which in our scenario is f/data. So we're going to put a bunch of stuff in here, and it should automatically copy up to here. So let's go check that out. Okay, I'm back at my resource group. I'm going to go to my storage group and just verify there is Nothing on the share at the moment. Empty. All right. So let's go up to our VM. We'll connect. And we want to put stuff in this folder. So we'll go over to File Explorer, go to the C drive. Let's just take this folder and copy it over to FData. Anything in packages? No. Anything in users? We should have our, and we'll take this thing and stick it here as well. Something with some volume to it. Okay, so what should be happening? We just populated FData, so now it should be going to our file share in the cloud or in Azure. So remember, we just checked that a minute and a half ago and it was empty, and it should have some stuff in there now. Let's do a refresh, and it does. Look at that. We got our storage MSI file, and we got our Windows Azure stuff. So syncing right along there. And that will stay in sync. And that will stay in sync now. So now, since we're all done, we want to get rid of this stuff. Previous labs is pretty simple, and we just basically just delete it, the resource group. Here it might be a little tricky. I'm going to give it a shot ad hoc here. So what I want to do is undo my work so I free up resources. That's the point. The lab's working. We're copying data. So the lab was a huge success. And now I want to delete everything. That's what we're going to do now, or at least try to do. And so let's say if I just go here and I say delete share. Can I do that? Snapshots, type of speed file share. Or should I do that last? Let's keep this file share and let's go to here and try to delete that. I think that's gonna be, and if I refresh, oh, that's my old one. Here we go. If I say delete here, it says before you delete this storage sync service, first delete all sync groups by removing the endpoints. All right. So I'll go to endpoints. Here they are. Delete. Before you delete this sync group, first delete all server endpoints. Huh. Okay. Delete. Type the name of the endpoint. So in this case, that's right here. Whoops. Delete. Okay, it's done. Took about a minute. So let's see, can we delete this, the cloud now? Whoops, delete. All right, it's good to know. Deleting the cloud endpoint does not delete the underlying file share. All right. Getting rid of that. Okay, that was successful. So let's go back to here. Can I delete it now? Before we delete the storage sync service, first delete all sync groups. So I guess I click there and say delete. Yes. All right, that was successful. Now can I delete it here? That doesn't like something. First delete all sync groups, removing all server endpoints, followed by clouds. Then unregister all servers. All right, so I go here. How about here? Unregister. And further Change the name. All right. Okay. This is going better than I thought, really. Hope I don't jinx it with that comment. Okay, that was done. So let's go back to sync groups. Delete. Now I can get the service. Oh, look at that. Now I should be able to go to delete resource group. And there we are. That should do it. Well, thanks for watching. And looking forward to the next video.